All right, Miles, it's time to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers yet again. This is a team looking to build off the last late season push they had last season, trying to head forward. They got a young team, young quarterback, some young skill guys. It looks like they're heading in the right direction. And we've got some news out of Pittsburgh that they're looking to address probably their biggest position of need to help some of these young skill guys out.
Yeah, Nick, speaking of position of need, Pittsburgh seems to have one of the most important ones locked up in the quarterback, but there's a lot of positions surrounding the quarterback maybe need a little bit of a boost. So that's why we want to ask the Steelers fans in the comments below, let us know in this offseason through the draft, through free agency, what is the biggest position of need in your opinion on this Steelers team? What's that one piece that you need to add to the team to finally make it complete? Let us know in the comments below. But Nick, speaking of which, I think the Steelers have their eyes on some interesting pieces. What do you have?
Yeah, so this is according to All Steelers as part of SI.com. I'm going to read from the report here, Mice. The Pittsburgh Steelers are spending the week down in Mobile, Alabama to scout this year's top senior class headed to the NFL draft. And after day one, head coach Mike Tomlin is making it somewhat obvious where he's looking for top prospects. Tomlin spent most of the individual drills during the national team's practice watching the offensive linemen. I know it's got to be good news to a lot of Pittsburgh fans' ears. He then returned for O-line versus D-line during the Americans' field time. And when that group, the offensive linemen, met for some offense versus defense, who was right in the middle of the group chalking up with the big men waiting to go in? Mike Tomlin. All right, Mike, so it's obvious that Tomlin is looking to address this offensive line position because, of course, he's not there to coach the Senior Bowl. He's there to observe and scout and see some of these seniors who are looking to be, obviously NFL players in the future. I love the fact that he's looking at linemen because when you look at where the Steelers are drafting this year, obviously having a winning record, they're not going to be a top 10, top 5 pick. When you draft, middle of the first round, later part of the first round, I love taking offensive linemen, and I love the fact that Tomlin recognizes that and is focusing on that on the Senior Bowl. Miles, give me your thoughts on Tomlin and just Tomlin here and just the potential offensive line moves and everything the Steelers could do this offseason to give Kenny Pickett some help.
Yeah, Nick, there's a lot of interesting guys out there, a lot of interesting prospects to say the least. But I think the biggest position of need, at least for the Steelers going, is maybe address the tackle positions per PFF. That's like their lowest graded offensive line play. But really, all over the line, they don't have the same kind of top tier guys. When I think of my generation of growing up and even later of watching Pittsburgh, you think of the Pounceys, you think of the Alejandro Villanuevas. They had a lot of top tier guys in that offensive line. And that's when they were really nasty. That was when they were at their peak. So they need to go back and get another blue chip guy on this offensive line. They just don't quite have that. So I'm excited to see Tomlin out here scouting these guys. And there's a lot of interesting prospects, Nick. There's a guy, Blake Freeland from BYU, who looks very interesting. And just a few other guys all around the offensive line that maybe fall to the Steelers. Maybe they're able to pick up in that draft position. Another guy, Cody Mock from North Dakota State, looks interesting as well. But what do you think, Nick? Is there anyone that catches your eye?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned some former Steeler great offensive linemen. The guy who I think of when I'm thinking Steelers and great offensive linemen is, of course, Alan Faneca. He played in the SEC at LSU, and it looks like another fellow SEC offensive lineman, I'm talking about Darnell Wright from Tennessee, is looking to really catch Tomlin and the Steelers' eye here. Wright was a right tackle at Tennessee, but the Steelers are obviously interested in more of a left tackle. I think they really like what Okafor did last season. He has some rooms to improve, but I think he's a solid player. They're looking for more of an upgrade, in my opinion, at that left side. And if a guy like Wright can make that transition, it's a big one now, but if he can make it, I think he's a guy that the Steelers will really keep their eye on because I personally love getting linemen from the Big Ten and linemen from the SEC. Linemen from the SEC are used to blocking elite speed pass rushers. And when you're going against the Bengals, when you're going against Myles Garrett and the Browns, when you're going against the Ravens and, all the bevy of pass rushers they have, you need guys who are used to that kind of hectic environment at tackle. And I think a guy like Wright, if he can make that transition from right to left, could be a perfect fit for the Steelers.
Yeah, Nick, you say Big Ten too. Another guy that looks very interesting coming out of Ohio State is offensive tackle DeJuan Jones. And the thing I like about this guy is his size. 6'8", 360 pounds. He's a big boy. He's got a massive 36 and an eighth inch reach. He just really looks like a beast. And this is a guy that has that mid to late second round grade, right in the sweet spot for the Steelers coming in. You could find a guy like this late in that second round, and it would be absolute steal if he could develop well. Right now, he's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. But, that can always be developed a little bit. He's got the size, he's got the aggressiveness and intensity to be a really great guy. But I think there's so many options. I'm excited to see who Tomlin and the Steelers scouts narrow in on and what they're able to do, because I want to see Kenny Pickett get a wall in front of him. I don't want him to be, like you mentioned, the other guys in the AFC North, like the Joe Burrows, who's running for his life every single down. We want to keep Pickett safe and allow him to develop to be the best quarterback he can be.